I'm going to finish off the presentations with a very short one on tropics, but we also will have a few minutes to ask questions about anything that was covered this morning. So for those of you who don't know it, the tropics is a field study that took place and continues to be an active interest in Panama, where we looked at the net environmental benefit aspects of dispersants versus non-dispersed crude oil in the tropical ecosystem, which was coral reef, mangroves, and seagrass, and the associated invertebrate. This study started in 1984, and for 1984 to 1989, there were regular visits. And again, in 1994, a visit by the original investigators. And we've been going down to this site since 2001 for several years with our last visit in 2016. In that visit, Dr. Abby Reniger, who some of you know from the National Coral Reef Institute at Nova Southeastern University Oceanographic Center, she has since gone through the 32 years of different papers and that have been published and put it together, trying to resolve for a lot of different researchers, slightly different methodologies, and what comes up now is that we're approaching the 40th year in November, December of 2024, and it's been suggested that we should go down and do a 40-year investigation to kind of top things off. And the question would be, well, why do we want to do that? And one of the things that back in 2000, I talked to my board of directors at Clean Caribbean and said, this is the seminal study that is being cited everywhere. It's all about net environmental benefit analysis and the use of dispersants. And we need to try to keep this going, to keep the issue of NEBA very upfront and in the face of folks. So we have had papers since 2001 right through to 2016 at various conferences all around the world, quite frankly. Most people in the response world know about the tropics experiment. And it's, in my view, going one more time will again keep it up in the forefront of people's minds. And I think it's really important that all of us in the response community, be you a regulator or an OSRL or an oil company, keep the concept of net environmental benefit right up front. You know, I'm often asked, am I an advocate of dispersants? And I kind of shy away from a yes or no on that. And I say I'm an advocate of looking at every tool in our toolbox. And frankly, we don't have a lot. There's only 4 or 5 different methods we have, and dispersants being one of them. So I'm an advocate of that environmental benefit analysis to determine what tools we're going to use. So Abby has taken on in the last few years, she finished it last year, I believe, an amalgamation of all the different papers that have been produced over the years. And that was a monumental effort. We're currently looking at getting supporters for a revisit down to the site. This, just by the way, actually, let me show you. This is what the dispersed site looked like in 2001. You can see very heavy presence of mangrove root there, very healthy area. But if you take a look at the dispersed site, mangroves were killed and they never recovered. And there's still to this day a big hole in the middle of the site. These sites are only 30 meters by 30 meters, and were able to capture the coral, the seagrass, and the mangroves all within those areas in Panama. So what we're doing now is Clean Caribbean is providing seed money to get the project rolling and get interest. We currently have Bessie is looking at supporting this, and we are anxiously awaiting word on that. We have a proposal on how we're going to go about this 40-year visit, the things we're going to do. I mentioned earlier to someone in the past, we tried to do some aerial pictures to take a look at the canopy cover and the recovery of the mangroves. That was a major fail because we used a helicopter to do it, and it basically banged down the mangrove canopy and made it very irrelevant what we saw. We also had photos being taken from every different angle, but we're looking at going back now with aerial drones and doing some ensemble type of work where we can get a good view of the mangroves. Abby was when we were down there last time, worked on the coral reef side with Dr. Dick Dodge, who was one of the original investigators from 1984 for the first 10 years. I worked the mangrove side with Dr. Tony Knapp, who's at Texas A&M. Both Tony and Dr. Dodge have agreed that they would like to come and do the 40-year. We also have Dr. Tom Sleater, who was with the Bermuda Biological Research Center, another original investigator who is looking to come as well. And then we've kind of been surveying other folks who wish to participate and support this. So right now we're kind of waiting to see what some of the support lines up as, and we'll be able to tell you more, in probably 4 or 5 months, how this is going to work out. So having said that, that's really all I wanted to say on the subject. And I wanted to take the rest of the time to kind of have an open forum. Our speakers are in and out. We can get microphones to you. I know, I think Kelly, you had a question before that we had to roll over. So anybody would like to ask questions to our speakers or each other? Mike?
I have more of a comment to add to the first gentleman with the OSRL, earlier this morning that talked about the AUVs on there. My understanding, clarity is that great work on the AUVs on there, and it seemed to be the technology helping us. I didn't hear a lot of information about how helping on the response part of it. I understand that OSRL has done some work with them to look at surface monitoring. If it is, I'd like to validate that. So that's something I really want to encourage. I know we're looking at the U.S. with some research with Bessie on it, but for myself, from being a former Coast Guard that was on the ground floor back in the late 90s doing some of the smart protocol on there, it's just not really effective. Hey, you got people on the boat that are coming after dispersants out there. Your best data that you're going to get, and we've been able to validate that and help move that ahead is right when the dispersants is being applied at the time. And I think the AUVs with thermometers on there, maybe with OSRL, if you are doing that, I would highly encourage and be supportive of that. Something we could do as our response.
Rob Holland is the person in OSRL who's leading that charge. So Rob, you want to answer
Yeah,
that?
we've been looking at the application of marine autonomous systems for all sorts of oil spill response applications substituting responders on a boat with a barometer dangling off the side with a small portable AUV system, something that we've been looking at pretty hard, and we've been doing some trials with the folks here. So if you look to your right, out to the window here, you'll see the Marine Robotics Innovation Centre. So that is a world-class centre for marine autonomous systems, and OSRL and Chevron and BP and Shell are collaborative members. So basically we get to tap into all the knowledge there. And you saw pictures of the little yellow eco sub on a couple of presentations this morning. But we know those guys quite well, and we've done some trials with them. So it is a space where we're really engaged with, and you can see that's the way forward. We do stuff in the sky as well with the quadcopters, surface stuff, and underneath. We don't actually own any of that kit at the moment, but who knows in the future? It definitely has huge potential for spill response operations.
Kelly?
Should I miss anything?
No, just
Okay.
white flash. Say who you
This is Kelly McFarland, Exxon Mobil. To piggyback on that, it could also be used for the jet ski and that as well, for kilometer, for measuring dispersant effectiveness after dispersant application.
Yeah, so Kelly's going to talk tomorrow in her discussion about this jet ski platform that Exxon and others have been working on.
Some people call it very about it, Jim.
Yeah.
I just want to make a quick comment because we were talking about persistence and ecotox of Corexit. And I just wanted to make the statement to remind people that when Corexit was formulated, it was formulated with ingredients that are naturally found in your home, underneath the kitchen sink. So it was specifically formulated to be non-toxic and to be biodegradable. Just wanted to remind people that.
Any other comments, Rob?
Rob James, the Department of Incident Management. So a clarification and a question to Tim, please. Do I take the implication of once a product is past its shelf life, can only be used if tested in the last 12 months? That means annual testing of dispersant's efficacy of all of our stockpiles. Is that the direction that's going?
Yeah, so what the rule says is a product beyond its shelf life can be authorized as long as a representative sample has been tested to the new requirements within the last 12 months. We're also working on getting guidance on what a representative sample is. It does not mean every tote every 12 months. But yes, if a product has a shelf life tied to it, it would have to be retested annually to remain viable or to be considerable for authorization. The other piece of that is Corexit currently does not have a stated shelf life. EPA has not made a judgment one way or the other whether they will accept an unlimited shelf life moving forward, other than to reply to us and state that if a manufacturer wanted to make that claim, EPA also reserves the right to ask additional documentation and proof to support.
And then just the other question, the backdating of stockpiles in terms of their compliance with storage requirements. That seems almost impossible to do unless there's some grandfathering.
Yeah, and Paul was a great advocate at the API Spills Advisory Group meeting where we met with EPA on this, that to date, we've had industry best practices for maintaining stockpiles. The problem is the way that what EPA is requiring, when you use words like documented and certified, that's a certain burden of proof that can't be reproduced. If you just want us to say we implemented best practices up until the effective date, we can do whatever you want moving forward, that's a solution we can live with. But the way the rule is currently written, you need that documentation certification is applied retroactively to the life of the product. it's an impossible task without some kind of guidance or grandfather.
So she's still working on that, is that correct?
Any other questions? We're pretty much right on time here. If we've got, one more minute, so let me just pass something to lighten the air a little bit before we go to lunch. And that's there's this old man walking through the forest and he hears this noise and he looks down and he sees a frog on the ground and the frog's going, pick me up, pick me up. And the guy goes, oh my gosh, and the frog goes, pick me up, pick me up. So he picks up the frog and the frog says, kiss me, if you kiss me, I'll turn into a beautiful woman. And the guy thinks for a little bit, puts the frog in his pocket and says, you know, at my age, I think I'd rather have a talking frog. Well,